everybody. Um, I decided to come on live here. I was really debating or not whether I should, um, whether I should have done the podcast or whether or not I should have. I couldn't really figure out how to come on here. Um, but this message was burning in my spirit so much so that I couldn't start my day without getting it out. I I definitely know this is the Holy Spirit unctioning me, pushing me to get this message out to you. That's just how sometimes God works with me, and I have this burning, and I have to get it out. And so um, the simple message here, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. But the simple message is that life doesn't have to be hard, and manifestation doesn't have to be hard as well. And I mean that everything. Um, when I say life, the things that has been placed in us um, to manifest doesn't have to be hard. That our life doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't negate our experiences or our very, very quickly before I share my story. I'm a healing coach. I help others heal the matters of their heart. This journey was a calling that called me, that I also believe that I agreed to before I got here. Um, uh, the reason why I feel this is an agreement is because I tried to run from it. Like I had other plans, but I felt this strong pull 7 years ago when I was in the dark night of the soul, and I prayed to God and asked God to help me because my life was very sad and heavy, and I knew that uh, I it had everything to do with me. What was I carrying? And so I journaled and asked God to help me. God spoke to me on a 21-day fast that was led by a woman named Shannon Event. And on day 19, God spoke to me and told me that the things that I was carrying and what I was believing wasn't who I was, but it was based out of what I was carrying ever since I was little. I went on the journey to understand trauma, to understand childhood wounds, to understand fear, to understand how societal subliminal messages get set within us, our environment, oftentimes the religion that we grew up in. Um, uh, a lot of it is rooted in fear. I was also shown that God showed me that I had viewed God totally not how who God really is. Um, and I thought that I had to be perfect. And there were so many different um, walls and fears that I had carried within myself. It almost felt as though that I was carrying the weight of the world. It also felt as though that the fears, it felt as though, and it was so, that the fears that I was carrying were not my own. This is why I do shorts, YouTube video shorts on topics like that. Um, I don't take it by accident that I was born in this black beautiful body. I don't take it by accident that I was born the gender that I was uh, born into. I don't take it by accident that um, the background that I had, the parents that who were my parents, my religious background. I don't take any of that by accident. I do believe that all of it was a purpose and all of it served a purpose. I believe that I walked through all those struggles and the fears and the experiences that I had, um, and the perception of self, to bring you this message so that I could awaken to the truth of who I am. I want to share with you very quickly that manifestation doesn't have to be hard. I want to share with you that life doesn't have to be hard. I understand, as I mentioned before, that there are challenges that we all face and that we all experience. And these challenges and experience that we all face oftentimes is because of what has been passed down to us as an agreement, and also what has been passed down to us energetically. I talk further into this in my one-on-one coaching. I'll leave the description at the bottom, but I dive further into that. But I wanted to just share this message with you that's in my spirit, that I have to get out, that I actually didn't script, but I'm just allowing it to flow out of me. This revelation oftentimes comes to me throughout the day, but it hits me in my spirit, oftentimes in the morning. Sometimes I journal, sometimes I write it in my newsletter to my subscribers. You can, find out information on if you would like to sign up as a subscriber. It's simply on my website that I'll leave at the bottom. But and sometimes I'll do it in different platforms. But I felt, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but I also have a podcast that I also share my message as well. But I felt as though that my face needed to be shown on this particular message, and I wanted to just share with you so you can not only see but let the message be what it is. Manifestation doesn't have to be hard. I recognize that in my wilderness, in my wilderness 7 years ago, when that I mentioned to you, that in my wilderness, what made it so hard was the things that I was fighting. And let me share with you one of the things that I was fighting. One of the things that I was fighting for a very long time was when I grew up, there was a um, misunderstanding and a sort of a frustration, not sort of, it was a frustration that I had as a growing up, seeing some of my loved ones stamp the word God on everything, but they didn't activate, or they weren't responsible for their lives. So it was, for example, if if you know someone that you love, or having someone that I love, and they had high blood pressure, and they went to the doctor, and every time they went to the doctor told them, this can be eliminated if you would just eat right. This could be eliminated if you would just exercise. This could be eliminated if you would just do this. This could be eliminated, X, Y, and Z. But when it comes down to doing the taking on the responsibility, doing the work that it requires to be in that alignment, there was no work. It was maybe 1 or 2 days of that experience of doing that, and then would just stamp God on it, or would put the fluff and the glitter in the glitz and glam of God. And I saw that growing up, and it was frustrating to me. And so, because of that, and many other beliefs that I saw rooted in fear, a lot of it was, um, I would say, ignorance, but I'm not going to really even say it was ignorance, because I think sometimes I have seen um, stamping God on things that's not God. And so there was a huge frustration that I had, because it was like, you have the responsibility, you have the answers, but you're not choosing to do it for the reason that you are choosing it, but you're stamping it on God. So that was a heavy frustration that I remember having, and trying to make that particular loved one or loved ones see the truth. And I was so frustrated, so frustrated. And I recognized that I had to come to the awareness that in truth, some people just don't want it. And that's so that, and then when I say that's okay, I had to release that and detach myself from that. And that was very hard. It was very hard because of the fact that I love these people. It was so hard because they were so near and dear to me. And I knew that that was one of the main things that I struggled with so hard. That was to let that go. But I knew that I had to let it go because I had to detach from it because I was still tied to that. I didn't allow my channel to God to be clear because I was still giving that agreement power. Are you following me? I was still given that agreement power. I was still stuck in that pain, wrestling back and forth on my in my wilderness in my dark night of the soul. I was still wrestling with that. And that was a thing that God wanted me to cut off and let go. See, when God was telling me to let go of some things in my life during that wilderness or during that dark night of the soul, there were things that I didn't want to let go of that God was telling me to let go of because of the fear, because of those beliefs. And one of the strong things that I believe that I'm called to share with you, one of the strongest things that I know to be true is sometimes our need to struggle, or sometimes our need to validate why someone did something to us, or sometimes our need to stay stuck in the muck. To stay stuck in the muck it's almost like a validated reason why I can't move forward. And that in essence and in truth was something that I was carrying. And that in essence and in truth is, if you are listening, if that resonates with what I'm saying, that is something that you are carrying. And if that is something that you are carrying, that I want to share with you, that is a very thing that is that you're stuck to, that you're choosing to stick to, that you're validating, that you're fueling, that you're growing, and it is blocking the manifestation. It is blocking your channel. It is blocking what God is telling you. I can remember hearing God and hearing God. I've always had a very sensitive ear to God, but I never surrendered fully to it. I never, because I didn't know or allowed myself to rest in that. I didn't allow myself to rest in that because of that belief. Well, no, I don't want to be like such and such. I don't want to be like so and so because they put God in it, but they still weren't responsible, and I'm not like that. I have to be responsible. And it was just like, okay, that was fear talking. But in essence, it's like, okay, well, because God spoke it, just believe and rest in it. Let that go. That's not you. That's not your story. Some of the stuff that we're carrying, and some of the stories that we're carrying is not our stories. Some of the stories that we're still carrying, that we've experienced, that we've seen, that has happened to us, that someone has told us, that subliminal messenger told us, has told us, we're still carrying that. That's a spiritual stronghold. That is an agreement. That's a tie. That's an attachment that we are tied to. And everything is energy. Everything carries as an energy. One more time. Everything is energy. So, because everything is energy, because everything is energy, and everything is about alignment. And so it's like a telephone. Like you can hear God, but the static and the stuff that's in the background, it's hard to not only hear God and heed to it. Why are we not heeding to it? Oftentimes, what allows us to not heed to it is that stuff, and that is rooted in fear. That is that stuff that's rooted in fear. And I know, just as us being in what we've experienced as Black people, what we've experienced, just even if you're not Black, but I just really want to say, because oftentimes, because of Black people and what we have experienced and what we have endured, and a lot of what's in our DNA, uh, um, a lot of the the trauma that we have experienced in our DNA, a lot of the fear that we have experienced in our DNA. Um, that stuff is still in us, and it's because of what was passed down to us. Sometimes, oftentimes, we are fighting things that are not our own. And I've been here to tell you that you can cut that cord. I've been here to tell you that you can free. You can walk into your promised land. You can walk into your freedom. There is a level of shifting that one has to take. There's a level of breaking that tie that one has to take. There's a level of stronghold a level of disagreeing, a level of, this isn't who I am, a level of, it's also a spiritual disconnection that you have to release yourself from. Sometimes you can be tied to the struggle in a sense of validation, or tied to the struggle in a sense of giving it life. Sometimes you can be tied to the struggle because it's like, well, if I let it go, then what? Sometimes you could be tied to the story and it's like, okay, well, that story was, it ain't you no more. That story, it was what happened to you. Yeah, but it's not who you are. It doesn't have power over you. And sometimes we're afraid to let that go because it's like, well, no, I still want to say it hurt me, or no, like they were wrong, or no, it's like, okay, they were okay, that they were wrong. That wasn't okay. Okay. And sometimes we think that because, okay, I have to hold on to that, that coddles you in a way that makes you feel protected, that in a way makes you feel that you're speaking to that little girl, that you're speaking to that little boy, the little boy within you, or the child within you. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm speaking to that, so I have to. And it's like that, all of those things, examining that thing is in your way. I want to share this with you, and then I'm done. There was a particular family member, um, uh, who I, grew up with, that I was, tied to innately, umbilical cord tied to, um, that I agreed to. And it's very important to understand mother wounds. It's very important to understand that. And I don't think sometimes we often know the depth of that, and the true understanding of that. But all in all, what I recognized from my story, from my experience, was that I was trying to run from a lot of the trauma and the fear, that my mother carried, and the trauma and the fear that she carried, and the things that I recognized that she was did not want to become aware of and responsible for, to take that step. There was anger that I had toward her, and that anger that I was having, I was directing it toward myself. That anger that I had, I was directing it and turning it within myself. That's really what is happening. That's really what we are doing. The anger and the trauma that we have, that we still have towards somebody, what someone did to us, is really a mirror that we're turning within ourselves. We're really, in essence, living in survival mode, living in fear. But the illusion of that fear is that we think that we are protecting ourselves, but in actuality, we are not. We are harming ourselves because we are choosing to not let it go. And fear holds on to a grip of your past, bitterness, pain, what someone did to you because of who they were in your life, or because of who they are presently in your life, and you're still holding on what happened to you or what they did to you. Okay. And that is the thing that you have to let go. That's why, um, releasing that pain, releasing that agreement, and really understanding that is your true power, and not the power of still holding on to that stuff. Being able to really hone and understand and being in tune to that, and recognize that that's the stuff, that's the constant cycle. That's the stuff, that's the constant record that's going in the background of your mind. That's the stuff that keeps repeating itself over and over again. That's the very thing that goes over and over again. It repeats itself over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And this is what constantly, what I was shown in the wilderness. It's that constant, like, cycle, constantly repeats itself. And God is faithful. God is so faithful. God loves you so much. And there is an order also to God. There is a law, right? A universal law to things. And this is why manifestation can be easy, but what makes it hard is that stuff that we're tied to, the agreements that we're speaking life to. That is our channel, that's our connection. And I'm here to tell you to ask yourself, ask your spirit, ask God, ask your guides, your guardian angels, your ancestors, ask them. Ask them, ask the Holy Spirit, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to be aware of during this time? What do I need to break off in me in the wilderness during this time? What is it that you're showing me? And being able to know that you have the power to release it and let it go every time. I love the verse that says forgive 77 times 7, right? It's not literally meaning like 77 times 7, but the analogy of what that means. Releasing that stuff and let it go. Trust me, I've held on to this stuff in the wilderness for a long time, and I was only hurting myself. I was only harming myself. And so getting to the root of that and recognizing that and identifying that. Now, even if you were severely abused, even if you were severely hurt, even if maybe what was passed down to you, you've had to struggle through it. That was me. You've had to struggle through it. You were trying to fight to not be that. And God is saying, you don't have to fight it. You don't have to fight it. The fight is being afraid to let go. That's why it's the fight. The fight is being afraid to really trust God. That's the fight. The fight is really believing that all things can become new. That's the fight. The fight is believing that really your miracle can happen now. That's the fight. The beliefs that we're stuck to, not believing that truth, not believing it, and it's going to constantly repeat itself. You'll go constantly through those cycles, constantly through those experiences because of what you are agreeing to. So I want to ask you today, what is it that you are agreeing to? What is it that you are attached to? What is it that you're saying yes to? What belief patterns are you holding? I want to ask you that on today. This is how, and this is why manifestation can become easy, because you don't have all that stuff in the way, and then you rise higher. That stuff you're like, what did I need that for? Doesn't matter your past. Doesn't matter where you are in life. Doesn't matter what you've experienced. Doesn't matter. Let that stuff go. Be mindful. Be aware. Be mindful. Be aware. Be mindful and be aware. All right. If you want one-on-one coaching, I'll go ahead and leave my website at the bottom. But that's all I got, y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.